Hello, in this video we are going to customize a checkout using the Checkout Branding API. So in the previous video I made about this, I went over how the Checkout Branding API works, what we can do with it, what limitations it has, and so on. So if you haven't seen that one and are not yet familiar with this API, I suggest you check it out before watching this video. This is a follow-up from that video where I'm going to customize a checkout from scratch to look as close as possible to this over here, which is a screenshot of this video over here. This is a good opportunity to showcase a couple of the new properties Shopify just added to the Checkout Branding API, which let us customize more things such as box shadows, the navigation at the top, and the background colors of the different sections we have. And with that being said, let's get started. So here I have a development store with the Checkout and Customer Accounts Extensibility preview because we need Checkout extensibility enabled to be able to do this. Some production stores already are able to use Checkout extensibility. To make sure you are able to follow this tutorial, from settings, click on checkout, and if you see something like this where you have the profiles for your checkout listed like this, then you're good to go. Now, the next step is to install the GraphQL app, as most of the things we'll do in this video will take place over there. So I'll go over here, I'll leave this link in the video description, and from here I'm going to click on install GraphQL. Now I need to get the URL from my store, so I'm going to copy this, paste it over here, and I'm just going to add .myshopify.com. I'm going to clear this selection and just select the scopes that I'll be using, but feel free to select any others that you may need. I'm going to only select checkout branding settings, and I may need to use files. From over here, I'm going to clear this selection as I won't be using any of this. And now I'm going to click on install. From here, we are going to see the GraphQL editor. Let's run this query to verify everything's working good, which it seems to be doing. Now I'll go to settings over here, and in checkout, I'll click on duplicate, and I'm going to rename this to customize checkout, and click on save. The reason I'm duplicating this and using a draft checkout is because while we are working on this, we don't want to disrupt the experience of the customers in the live checkout. So once we finish working here, I can just click on publish, and then this checkout will be the live one. So I'll click here on customize. And from here in settings, I'll go ahead and start changing a couple of settings that can be changed from here. If you recall from the previous video, everything I changed here is in sync with the Checkout Branding API. However, this is a much more visual way of working with it, so I think we should take advantage of the few settings that we can customize from this menu over here. I'll start by making this a one-page checkout. Next, let's change the colors. So over here you can see that the background in both sections is this blue color, this light blue over here. So let's do just that. I went ahead and already checked which color this is, which is this one over here. So I'll copy this, and I'll also use it over here because both sides have the same background color in this example. Now for the accent, as you can see, this checkbox has a black accent, but over here if I check this, it has a blue accent. So to change this, I just have to make this color be black. The buttons, we can see the color of the buttons, and this one is disabled, so we can't really see what color it is. But I'm going to make this, use this dark blue color over here, just so we can customize it. And I'm going to save this. We'll come back to this editor later to modify the header over here, because as you'll see later, this customization is a bit harder to do. And also, let me put this full width. The logo actually should be left aligned, that is okay. So let's go now to GraphQL and start modifying the other things in this checkout. I can look more like this. So I'm going to click here in preview, and now I have the GraphQL editor here. So I'll run a query to get the checkout profile ID, so checkout profiles. I'm going to get the first 10, although I only have 2 in this example. From this I'm going to get edges, node, I'm going to get the ID, I'm going to get the name, and I'm going to get is published. From this, the one that I created was this one, so I'm going to grab this ID over here, and I'm going to paste it here, as I'm going to need this in a moment. Now I don't need this part of the query anymore, so I'm going to remove it. And now we are going to run a mutation to modify the profile. So here I'm going to create a mutation. This will receive checkout branding input, which is of type checkout branding input and it's required, and it will also receive checkout profile ID, which is of type ID and is also required. Now here I'm going to run checkout branding upsert. This receives the checkout profile ID and the checkout branding input. From here we can then query from the checkout branding object anything we want, although we are not really going to be using much from here, but you can get any property. So I'm going to get this. This doesn't matter that much because we are going to be visually seeing what we are changing over here. So what this will return is the value of the corner radius for the checkbox, but when we modify this, we are going to directly be visualizing that over here in this preview. What is important though is here getting user errors in case we have mistakes in our input when we start creating that. Now I'm going to move this up a little so we have more space to work with, and I'm going to pass here the checkout profile ID, and I'll paste the ID we got a moment ago, and then here we have the checkout branding input, and over here we start using the customizations, which is an object. We'll start filling this in a moment, and design system, which is another object, and we will use this later in the video. Now let's see, the first customization we want to make is to remove this border radius, because over here you can see that none of these form controls have border radius, but if we go to the preview over here, there is some border radius in all of these form controls, including this checkbox. So what I'm going to do is in global, I'm going to, for corner radius, set this to none. If I set this appears to be working, but we have an issue. You see over here that this also removed the corner radius for this circle that has the quantity of items, of this item that we have in the cart. But over here, this is still a circle, so removing the border radius for everything was not the solution. Instead, what we have to do is not in global, but in controls, control over here, corner radius, and this is none. For the bottom, primary bottom, corner radius, also none. For the secondary bottom, corner radius is also none. And if I run this and then refresh this page, let's see, I also have to undo the global. So for corner radius, I have to set this to null. By using null, I'm undoing the value. So before I just removed this from the query, but removing a value from here doesn't remove the value it already had. It just doesn't update it anymore, but it still had the null value. Now it should be removed, and instead we should be getting the corner radius from this over here, and the ones that are not listed here should have their default value. So this over here now is a circle as it was by default, but these form controls, none of them have border radius. However, we also have to remove the border radius for this thumbnail. As you can see over here in this preview, none of these have corner radius, so let's do that. for the, I think it was merchandise thumbnail corner radius, and I will set this to none. If I run this and refresh this page, now this is doing it. You can also see that there is a thin border over here of maybe 1 pixel, but this border is not present over here. If I zoom this, there doesn't seem to be a border. So to remove the border, what I can do is in merchandise thumbnail, border, I can set this to none. And if I refresh over here, now we have no border. Next, let's take a look at the headings over here. We can see that this is not bolded as it is over here. The font sizes seem to be accurate, so this, and this one are larger, and this one is smaller, and this is roughly the same. So these two are larger, and this one is a bit smaller. So what I'm going to do in the query here is for heading level 1, typography, weight, and this will be base instead of bold, which is its current value. If I run this, this will affect this one, and this one over here, and also this text. And here you have it. And now let's also bold this one. So this is a heading level 2, typography, weight, base. If I run this, now this one is also unbolded. Now let's address these boxes over here that have a white background and a box shadow. So to do this, we are going to have to change the API version. Basically, here, I'm going to go to 2024-04, which is the newest one. This is updating the GraphQL schema, and now I should have the newest properties for checkout extensibility. You can see here already that I have footer, buyer journey, cart link. All of this wasn't available in 2024-01. If I change to that one again and wait for this schema to be fetched, buyer journey is not present here, footer is not present here, and a couple others are also not present here. Anyways, let's change back to this one. And what we are looking for is in main section, and all of this is new. Section itself was added in 2024-04. So from here, let's start by adding a box shadow, large 100. We can start with that and see if it looks similar to what's in the reference image. Maybe the next one, maybe large 200. Let's see. I think that looks closer to this. Now, of course, there are a couple other things we have to adjust. We have to adjust the padding here. Large 500 may do it. Let's see. This looks like this here. I think that may be a bit too much. Let's try with large 300, see how that looks like. And that's a bit closer to what we need. Maybe, is there a large 400? There seems to be it. I think that will do. Next, let's change the corner radius. So let's try with large. I refresh this. Is this the largest one? Let's see. Yes, this is the largest one, so it must be that one. Now we have to change the background color here. We have three options: base, subdued, and transparent. Subdued is calculated based on the base color, and transparent is just transparent. Let's try with base and see what we get. If I refresh this, I get nothing. I mean, it is the same color we already had. See, subdue. We get a different color here, but we want to have white. So we will have to update the color schemas to add white as the base color. Okay, so earlier in the video I changed the background 1 and background 2 for these two sections over here from the theme editor. Internally, as this is using the Checkout Branding API, what it did is that it set the base background for both the color scheme 1 and color scheme 2 to be this blue over here. This is a problem because as we are limited to just 2 color schemes right now, we can't set this background color the way we want. But there's a solution. As both are using the same background color right now, I can make that be a single color scheme and then use the other one to store the white background. Let's see how that will look like in practice. So I know that explanation might have been a bit confusing, but by doing it here, it will help clear things up. So in colors, in design systems, I'm going to select schemes. And from here, scheme 1, I'm going to set this, the base color, the background, to be white. So right now, the base background for scheme 1 is using this color over here, and the same goes for the base background of scheme 2. And this surface over here is reading that background color, so that is why it is right now just blue. By setting it this way, if I save this and refresh this page, now this is white. Well, it is not exactly white because over here I'm missing subdued. Let me change this to be base. If I refresh this, this is now white, but all of this is also white. But what I can do instead now, I can change the color scheme here to be color scheme 2, because color scheme 1 is the one that has the white background, and color scheme 2 is the one that has the blue background. It could be the other way around too if you want. So now, let's see. Okay, yes, I'm using color scheme 2 here, and then color scheme here should be color scheme 1. If I refresh here, now it is looking the way we want it. Let's see if we compare it to this. Maybe the box shadow is a bit too much right now. Let's change this to large 100. That looks a bit closer to what we have here. Obviously, we don't have this express checkout section because this is a development store. And this part over here is just a checkout UI extension. I have a video in the channel explaining how to create those in case you want to check that out. I'll be linking that in the video description. But anyways, that's out of the scope of this video. Another thing we have to change is this cart icon over here. If you take a look at this image, there is no cart icon. And in the latest version of the API, we are able to remove it. So here, I'm going to look for cart link, visibility, I can set that to hidden. And now if I refresh the page, there is no cart icon in case we are required to remove it. And finally, let's add the logo. So here I have this image that looks very similar to the logo being used over here. And now let's add the background image. For the banner, I'm going to use this one over here. And this sets the background image for this entire section, but that's not exactly what they are doing here. This image is below the logo, and as we can see here in this preview video, the image is separate because the logo is first at the top alone, and then the image is added a moment later. So it clearly can be added somehow, but right now this option is not available as this version of the API has not been released yet. It is a release candidate, as you can see. There is the possibility that they add that option later on, or that they add it as an improvement in a future version, but for now, we are just able to set this as a background image. We can confirm this, let me save this first, by going over here, and if I look for header, and then banner, over here, the only thing that I can change is the media image ID, which will just change the image that is being used for this, but I cannot change its position. And any of the other properties here, position, logo, and banner, all of those are already being controlled over here. So alignment is this one, position is this one, and the logo is this one. All of those settings can already be controlled through here, and none of them make the image go in this position right now. Now let's publish this customized checkout, and let's go through the checkout flow to see how that looks like. So I'll click on preview here. Let's add an item to the cart. We can see here the customized checkout. Let's fill this. Here I'm going to select this one over here that fills everything else. And I'm going to use one of these test cards. And now we are in the thank you page. We can see that the branding is still consistent over here. This white surface with box shadows and all of that is still persistent over here with the background colors we customized. And if I refresh this page to go now to the order status page, the branding is also consistent over here. And as a final comparison, we started with the checkout looking like this and ended up with it looking like this. So that does it for this video. If you found it useful, remember to like and subscribe for more Shopify related content, and I'll see you all in the next one.